I'm okay with you being a technician as well, but your CEO or your business owner hat has to go on first, and then can you be a technician.
Originating from deep inside the Rocky Mountains, transported through the power of the internet, and arriving inside your tiny earbuds. It's the Appraiser Coach Podcast.
Minisode.
All right, folks, we're coming up on the end of the year. It is time to look back, if you will, at where you've come. And more importantly, look forward to where you're going. I want to pause here and remind you we are sponsored by Now Software. Oh my gosh. Use it every day. Love it. They've improved so much over the last few months. Check them out. Go to anow.com/coach. One more time, anow.com/coach. All right, folks, we're coming up on the end of the year, and a process that I go through every year I was going to say without exception. I'm sure there probably are exceptions. You know, I get caught up like everybody else in the holidays and everything else that's going on, and sometimes, vacations and that kind of thing. But I always try to take time, not just for my personal renewal and personal time. I always sit down once a year and do what's called a vision story. And I've podcasted about that before. You can look back in the resources and just type the word vision in there. You'll find it. And I'm not going to talk about that today, but another process that I go through as a business owner. So this is me being the CEO of my business. Every year I sit down and look at my finances. Okay. Now you should know that I frequently, and when I say frequently, it's quarterly. Okay, and my good friend Blaine Fine, love you, Blaine. He does this monthly, and I've done it monthly. But my argument to Blaine, he says that quarterly is not enough. I agree with you, actually, Blaine. But here's the problem: if I find myself doing it monthly, I find myself not doing it at all, and that's just my personal problem, right? That's my issue. If I set it to look at my P&L and my balance sheet once a month, I get a little tied up, and I think, well, I'll do it next month. I've found that if I schedule it quarterly, so 4 times a year, actually 5 times a year, and I'll tell you why here in just a second, but 5 times a year, at least quarterly, I find myself doing it because I know that it's been too long, right? And I know that I've got to get it done. And so I just keep that in my inbox and I get it done, where I'm more inclined, if it's monthly, to say, I just did it last month. I'm sure not that much has changed, right? And again, kudos to Blaine. He made a comment on his podcast that quarterly is not enough because, remember, P&Ls and balance sheets are retrospective, right? They're historical, just like appraisals, right? Appraisal values are always retrospective because we're talking about past sales, which is setting a current market. Okay, we all get that. Same is true in a business. When you're looking at your P&L, you're looking at something that's a couple of months old, okay? Unless you're doing it monthly and then it's just a couple of weeks old. It's still old, but it's not as old. And as Blaine pointed out, I'm paraphrasing him, but he said, by the time you realize that, it may be too late. Okay. Now, maybe that's a little accelerated for my taste, but that's okay. I get where he's coming from. I get it. I understand it. I actually believe it. I just know for me personally that quarterly works great. Okay. And I would also say this to my defense. I don't think most appraisers are even doing it at all, Blaine. So quarterly is better than nothing, right? Okay. So on a quarterly basis, I look at my P&L, I look at my balance. By the way, if you have not listened to the podcast on how to read a P&L and how to read a budget sheet, I would highly recommend that you pause right now. You go to your little podcast app and you search for, in the Appraiser Coach podcast, P&L and balance sheet, and listen to those episodes, okay? This episode will make a lot more sense if you've listened to those episodes. Before I continue, I want to pause here and remind you that we are sponsored by Now Software. Now, of course, is the way that I keep track of everything. Just this morning, I had a question. And the question is, I wonder how long it's taking me from start to finish to do an appraisal on average. Okay, got a big operation, a lot of throughput, a lot of people in the machine, and I want to know where we're at. And so literally, folks, I'm not kidding, in 10 seconds, I had the answer to that. Now, it took me a little bit longer to decipher how much or how fast I was for one client. Okay. And that was only because I had not been keeping track really well of that client. I'd been putting it on the wrong line, but I was still able to find it within, 3 or 4 minutes. So I was able to compare how much time it takes on average for us to complete an appraisal and how much time on average it takes to complete an appraisal for this particular client. And I was able to shoot off an email to my staff and say, hey, this is a VIP client. We're doing these just as quote unquote slowly as any other appraisal, and we need to be kicking it up a notch. We need to be treating them like a VIP. Folks, I could not make a decision like that as a business owner without something like ANow software, and ANow makes it so easy. If you're not using ANow software in your business, you need to be. It's anow.com/coach. It's anow.com/coach. All right, folks, we are back. We are talking about the end of the year wrap up. I just wanted to share with you a habit that I got into several years ago as a business owner. And by the way, I might pause here and just say, folks, most of us spend most of our time as a technician in the appraisal world. Okay, we say we're business owners, but we forget to get up in the morning and put our CEO hat on first. Okay, it needs to go on first. I'm okay with you being a technician as well, but your CEO or your business owner hat has to go on first, and then can you be a technician. Okay? And ultimately, I think most of you have the goal of replacing yourself as a technician so that you're simply a business owner. At least that's the coach sessions that I've had with a lot of people recently, including an individual that I spoke to for over an hour this morning. Okay? And it's getting this idea, well, it's the E-Myth, right? If you've not read the E-Myth by Michael Gerber, you need to be reading that book on a regular basis. I try to read it once a year, just finished up again this year. And a great reminder of what it's like to be a technician, what it's like to be a business owner, what it's like that most of us just own our job, okay? And getting out of that role and making sure that we are a CEO, that we are the visionary, that we are the business owner in the business, okay? And part of that process is the end of the year wrap up. And for me, it simply looks like this. It's very similar to what I do on a quarterly basis, but at the end of the year, usually between Christmas and New Year's, okay, that does flex a little bit depending on what I've got going on with my family and travel and that kind of thing. But for the most part, it's that week between Christmas and New Year's that I sit down and turn off all distractions, and I really pour over my annual P&L and my annual budget sheet, or my balance sheet rather, and budget sheet, by the way. Where are we at with our expenses? Where are we at with payroll? Where are we at with individuals? Okay. And by the way, I did it a little bit early this year and have discovered that I need to tweak a few things. Okay. By the way, I don't know that I need to tweak something unless I know the numbers. And I don't know the numbers unless I take time on a regular basis to work on my business and not in my business. So please, folks, if you have not done so already, I highly recommend, I highly encourage that you take some time as you start to wrap up the year to do an end of the year review. And it's more about looking forward than it is about looking back. Okay? What I mean by that is it's more about saying, okay, look at where we were the last year. Now, Dustin, what do you actually want to do moving forward? What do you actually want to do moving forward? If you can answer those questions, then you will be able to tweak your financial life. You'll be able to tweak your business model for the coming year. Folks, if you have not done so already, I highly recommend that you sign up for my All-Star Team. As a All-Star Team member, you get access to all of my webinars. You can find them at products on the Appraiser Coach website. And specifically, I want you to scroll down and look at one called Rethinking Your Appraisal Business. Folks, if you can start to rethink what it is to be a business owner, you will be head and shoulders above your competition. It's called Rethinking Your Appraisal Business. It's on the Appraiser Coach website under products, and it is free for all All-Star Team members.
You've been listening to the Appraiser Coach podcast with Dustin Harris. If you like what you hear, please give us a 5-star rating and post a short review on iTunes. For more in-depth insider information on how you can make more money as a real estate appraiser, visit theappraisercoach.com and sign up for the All-Star team today. Thanks for joining us. And now, get out there and create some value.
Before I begin, sorry, editor.